G'day guys, ZiggyD here and welcome back to ZiggyD Trades for day 9 and 10. As is tradition, we'll start off with some mistakes made. I did a fair bit of gambling over the past 2 days. One of these days was quite profitable and the second day was not so much because I did engage in quite a bit of gambling and probably lost a few exalts as a result. Making pretty good progress overall, as you can see. I'm sitting now well over 20x. So if I'm doing that mirror challenge that Ziz set out for me, I'm on my way to being halfway there. So not too bad. I'm doing pretty well overall, but I think it's still important to learn from these mistakes. So one of the mistakes I made was I decided to gamble on 2 putrid cloisters. So I've run one of these in the past and got really lucky, got some sweet divination cards. What this card does is you just get a heap of divination cards and you get a bunch of stacked decks, which are currency orbs that you can pull divination cards from. And there are some pretty valuable divination cards out there, right? So I bought one of these and ran it and got only like 20 chaos-ish back in value, and they cost about 55 chaos. And then I actually had one drop and I didn't learn my lesson from the previous one and ran it again. Could have sold it for 55 chaos and made back the 55 chaos I lost and then made a profit from the cards that dropped in the first one, but decided to run it again and take that gamble once again. And well, I made like 10C from this one, I think, so I did pretty badly on the second one. The other thing that I did was I jumped into my map pool. My map pool's been getting pretty healthy from the Chayula runs, but I jumped into my map pool. I had a tier 14. I jumped into the tier 14. A tier 15 dropped Colosseum. I ran the Colosseum and instantly got a fragment of a map of the Chimera, a layer of the Chimera. So I decided I'm going to run the Chimera. Now I've never actually ran Chimera before. It was my first time running it. For some reason I decided to roll with mods, and I ended up running with vulnerability, shot ground, and added damage. Like, I don't know what I was thinking, man. So it's like a 40 chaos map, and I almost killed him. I actually almost killed him, but ended up losing the map and not getting any real currency back. Got a couple map drops, but I ended up losing something like 20 chaos or something on that. So I was beaten by the Chimera, and I thought, I need revenge, right? I let my hubris get the best of me, and I bought another Chimera map of someone else for 40 cows. And then I ran it with very easy mods, right? I'm like, okay, I almost killed him on ridiculous mods. Surely I can kill him with very easy mods. Well, I decided to stack up my prophecies beforehand because, if you can get some good prophecies, like, Plague of Toads or something like that, you can get some extra value out of that map. And I thought I'll get some extra value out of the map. Well, one of the prophecies that I got was actually ghosted. Like, very powerful enemies in this map are ghosted. So, oh, man. So, the Chimera was ghosted with Rogue's Grip, which made him very, very fast. Super fast, like ridiculously, like this boss is not made to go this fast. His standing still channeled abilities, he did while moving, basically. It was that fast, which was not a good idea. So I was not able to do that. I did invite someone else in to get the kill, and we did get the kill together, and nothing dropped. So I ended up losing another 40 counts there and only a little tiny bit back from map drops inside of that. So all up, I ended up losing something like, let's just say 190 chaos from all of these gambling endeavors. With some money made back, we're probably looking at like 2x lost profits. So gambling is not a bad idea. I mean, I do a lot of gambling, a lot of it turns out profitably, if it's done intelligently, right? But you also have to be conscious of the fact that gambling, when it's away from your core goals, right? Like if you have a core goal to earn a certain amount of currency, and this is a lesson I want you guys to take from this. If you have a core goal to earn a certain amount of currency, get a specific item for your build or something, maybe it's just 1x or something, then making a few gambles along the way might not be the best choice. You might want to, just focus on the things that you're making good profit. Like I know I'm making great profit off Chayula runs, right? Like that's barely a gamble. That is very profitable for me at the moment. And sticking with that, I would reach my goal much faster. And sometimes sticking with that thing to try and reach that goal before you decide to, once you have cash you can afford to spend to start making gambles, then it is a bit more intelligent to do so. So potentially learn that lesson from me there. So I've been running a lot of Chayula maps, as you can see. These red maps are all dropped from Chayula. Very, very nice in terms of red maps. If you have a couple of nice red maps unlocked on your Atlas while you're running Chayula, there's actually big profits to be made from the trash mobs. I'm getting something like 10 to 30 chaos in red maps dropping every Chayula run. Now, the Chayula map itself costs somewhere between like 120, 140 chaos-ish if you get decent rates. And you're making back a good portion of that just from red maps alone, and then in terms of the currency and stuff that drops, and then whatever the boss drops, you know, then you start making good profits. So there's good profits to be made for that. I've actually been doing a bit of a Chayula service as well. Been doing some Breach Lord boss services. Now these sorts of carry services are quite predominant, quite popular in Path of Exile, and I've made some good money from this. Now, what the usual the going rate-ish for Chayula carries is just a flat 25 chaos fee. That's what a few people who have been doing it said that they've been charging. And basically, someone pays 25 chaos, they get the loot, and you get them in for the achievement, and they get the achievement as well. So they're essentially paying for the achievement, and they get the loot, and then the person running it gets a flat fee. Rather than doing that to keep things a bit more interesting for the stream, I've decided to go a slightly different route. I'm taking all of the loot from the trash mobs, and then the person providing the Chayula Breach Lord Stone is getting the loot from the bosses, and that's worked out pretty well. I've had a lot of happy customers from that, and I'm not making that consistent 25 chaos each run I could be if I was charging a fee. I do recommend charging a fee instead. It's much less gambly, because some runs I'm getting like 10, 15 chaos in drops from the trash mobs. Sometimes I'm getting like 30 or 40, a bit better, but most of the time I'm getting a bit less than that 25. But it's still quite profitable overall, and you know, I've been leveling up gems and things in the background as well, you know. I've got these Enlightens leveling here. These are almost 2.5, so once they hit 3, I'm going to make some sweet bank off that, and I've started leveling in a power recently as well. These are leveling in a Haku's Scepter, by the way. It's another way. If you're running something that's giving you a lot of XP, even if you're just like farming Dried Lake, or especially if you're running Chayula runs or Breach Lord runs, there's a lot of XP from those trash mobs. So those guys, you know, that all that XP is also being turned into money, right? You should be considering that, trying to level up things as much as possible in the background. So I'm also leveling Flame Blasts in the background and things like that as well. So a good idea to be considering how you can turn that XP into profit as well, and make sure you're leveling up some gems you can either resell or potentially use for your build. So quite nice there. That's been pretty profitable overall, and in between that I've been running my own Chayula runs and Breach Sword runs here and there as well. So that has been pretty good. Now let's get into some of my buys and sells and see what I've done just here. This was a ring I bought for 2 chaos. I quite like this for 2 chaos because this is a very good hybrid ring, actually. As I've said in previous episodes, I've been keeping an eye on chaos resistance breach rings for people that want to get into farming Chayula. There's a lot of elemental hybrid inquisitors out there, and those guys are looking for decent hybrid gear, and when they start farming Chayula, they're looking for chaos res. So I like this because it had fire damage, life, energy shield, and then that doubling chaos res, and a bit of int to boot, which is energy shield. So quite nice on that with the fire damage for the Inquisitor types. So pretty cool stuff right there. 2 chaos, a very nice purchase. This was actually an investment I made for myself, potentially for a future character, maybe a secret project, but I took a picture of this because I paid 45C for it, so it was a pretty big purchase, but it was actually listed up for 55 chaos, so I simply said, hey, you know, would you be interested in accepting 45 chaos for this? And they had to think about it for a moment and agreed to it. And I'm going to talk a bit about negotiating a bit as we go along here. And definitely consider putting in offers for items, particularly if they're kind of niche. In this case, we have a decent energy shield belt with Wed and energy shield and some resist, so that's pretty good. But it's also a life belt too, so it's a hybrid belt, which is a little bit more niche. So he had it listed up for 55C. There's some other good ones around similar prices, especially if there's a lot of items that are fairly similar or comparable around the same price, then definitely consider putting in an offer. So I offered 10C under the asking price, and they accepted that straight up. So I saved an extra 10C right there. So not too bad at all. I also sold something recently. On the flip side of that, I had a ring listed up for 12 chaos. The guy asked 9C for it. And I was like, let's meet in the middle at 10 chaos. So that's what we ended up doing there. So consider accepting offers so you get that sale, because you don't know if someone else is going to come along and want to buy that. especially if it's a bit of a niche item, which the ring there that I sold was a bit niche, then yeah, consider taking that offer, but maybe meet somewhere in the middle. You know, if someone offers several chaos below, you can usually talk them up another chaos or two if you still want the sale, and still get that sale. A lot of people aren't going to say no if they've already kind of committed their mind towards buying the item, and they'll be willing to pay a few extra chaos. Not too many people will be hard on their offer. That was the Putrid Cloister, just as a reminder. Another thing I invested in was Eye of Chayula for 20 chaos. I probably could have watched these and got one for like 18 or 19 chaos maybe, but eventually I'm going to upgrade this using the Blessing of Chayula to the upgraded powerful version of this, and that could be used in a secret project build maybe. Here was a prophecy fragment. So as you run the prophecies, sometimes there'll be ones that are prophecy chains where there are a bunch of quests in a row, so like 1, 2, 3, 4. I ran through one of those and got the fragment here and ended up selling that for 26 cows. So just again, another reason to keep your prophecies filled up, and it's not a bad idea to duck out of maps every now and then to do some of these quick prophecy chain ones and then end up selling the profit from it. Here is the starting of my sales. This is a +1 Frenzy amulet that I vialed. I found this amulet here, and it's not very good. 25 ES, you know, a bit of chaos, cold rares, a little bit of rarity, added some life to it. I'm like, I guess with the chaos res, it's kind of an okay, pseudo crappy hybrid. So that's the candidate. Coral amulets, great base for vialing. Decided to chuck my vial orb on that, and got the +1 Frenzy. Ended up selling that for 7 chaos, so not too bad. I'm getting a lot of messages in game. I'm gonna see if I'm like getting some offers on items and see if we can make some trades or something. We're all good. Just someone having a bit of a chat. Next up, we have a 2-stat minion jewel that I sold. This was a good example because I got 5 chaos for what is essentially a 2-stat minion jewel. The energy shield is pretty like unimportant here. Very few builds would actually use that are also minion builds. So it's only really a 2-stat jewel, but keep an eye out for 2-stat minion jewels. Minion damage jewels are in high demand. Minion damage and life together, easy 5C. Like, I think you can even get more for minion damage jewels, but for the 2-stat, I was quite happy to take 5 chaos for this. So you wouldn't normally look at a 2-stat jewel, right, and think 5 chaos. Usually that's like a 3-stat jewel, 3-stat damage jewel, something is in like the 5 to 15 chaos range. But 5 chaos for a 2-stat jewel, I'm pretty happy with that. Here is a 2 chaos shield. I wanted to show some lower end items because not all of my sales are like 5 to 10 to 15 to 1x sales, right? It's easy to make the mistake of thinking that people get wealthy by making a lot of big sales. And nice memes in the background. Sometimes you do find an item that's worth 10x and sell it. You become instantly wealthy. Like sometimes people win the lottery, but a lot of people make their money, including myself, through those 1 to 3 chaos sales. And I'm making those all the time. I have a 1 chaos tab that's full and is always selling things. So here's an example of a 2 chaos shield, some life and resists, and a little bit of spell crit. That's it. 2 chaos. It's the sort of thing I'm like, okay, I put it, if it's like possibly usable for someone in early end game, I put it up for 1C, and if it's slightly better than that, I put it up for 2C. Here's a 5 chaos breach ring, another spellcaster one, dexterity, cast speed, and the rest of the stats are pretty bad, right? Like a little bit of cold res, but just that high dexterity with the cast speed, and I'm like, 5 chaos. Here's a 5 chaos damage jewel just here. We have cast speed, and crit chance. Crit chance being a pretty low value mod, but it's still a 3-stat jewel with an extra, what I would call a half stat, right? Like a useful stat, but not one of the really solid stats. So we got like a kind of one of the okay ones, and then we've got a half stat, but it's still overall, like in terms of value, this is like a 3-stat jewel, so a decent 3-stat jewel. So I sold that for 5 cows. Here's that ring that I mentioned that the guy put in an offer for. It was Life, Int, Energy Shield, Chaos Res. So Chaos Res ring, I'm like, yeah, it has a little bit of damage on it, not a lot of stuff going on. I'm like, it's kind of a hybrid one, so ended up selling that just there. In fact, was this the one I bought earlier? I think I bought this earlier. Yeah, I bought that I bought that the day before or something. So there you go, I bought that for 2 chaos. I didn't even realize it was the same ring. We've already discussed this ring. I bought that for 2 chaos and I ended up selling it for 10 chaos. So not too bad, 8 chaos. Tidy 8 chaos profit. Let's see what else we got here. This is a 15C jewel. One of the first kind of like decent jewels, because I've started actually trying to get a few more jewels going and trying to do some more jewel sales. I've even been scouring alking some jewels. I actually got some pretty decent jewels out of scour alking. I'll show you over here. I took all my blues because I'm trying to look for jewels for myself, and I thought someone suggested scour alking them. I'm like, yeah, I guess scours and alks are kind of cheap at the moment, and regals are kind of not so cheap. So I usually alt and regal jewels, but I thought let's try for some 4 stats. And I scour alked a few things here. I got this decent trap jewel. I got this damage over time, cast speed jewel, pretty nice there. And I got this really nice cold spell, skill just here. Crit chance was cold, crit multi with cold damage and damage. Very nice jewel there for 22C. So I definitely made money on my Scout Alching jewels. I'm going to be exploring that idea a little bit more in the future. But here's a decent 4-stat jewel that I sold for 15C. We got crit multiplier, crit chance, and block. So the block is not a very good stat, right? It's not a hugely valued added stat. So it's another half stat, right? So we're looking at a good crit jewel here, a good 3-stat crit jewel with an extra stat that's kind of useful, right? And it matches dual wielding. So 15k for that sucker right there. As I mentioned earlier, leveling up those gems. Once my Scorching Ray hit 20, it's a utility skill for me. I don't use it for the damage. It's on a totem to strip enemy fire resist. Once I hit 20, I got another one with quality for cheap for a couple chaos, and then I put this one up for 18C and ended up making 18 chaos for it. So if you have utility gems that you can sell and then just buy a cheaper version of, and it doesn't really matter, if you can upgrade to a quality one essentially if the quality helps you, and then sell the other one, consider doing so. Consider cycling your jewels in and out, your gems in and out to make a little bit of profit. And we made a tidy 18 chaos there. Here is a bigger jewel sale as well. Getting a lot of jewels today. We got physical damage, lightning damage, projectile damage, attack, and cast speed. This is basically like a lightning arrow jewel right here, and a pretty sweet one at that. 20 chaos, I think when I sold this, I knew that straight away that this was too cheap. So this one I probably could have sold for closer to an X if I had been patient. I thought, yeah, okay, so it's pretty specifically lightning arrow. Also kind of lightning strike, but that's pretty unpopular. So I thought, yeah, we'll check that up. And someone put in an offer. I think it was a viewer put in an offer. So I was like, I'll give a bit of a viewer bro deal there. But I do think this one is way too cheap. So if you see a 4-stat damage jewel like this, especially in softcore, then consider, you know, pricing higher than what you might think it might be worth, because this could have gone for like 50 cows maybe. So pretty nice jewel there. I still made some profits in the end, but could have made probably a bit more. I sold another Chayula sword, just some sweet Chayula profits, 88C, can't complain. Another example of me cycling out gems here. I had another 5 penetration ready to go, so I ended up selling this 2021 that I corrupted here for 30 cows. Not too bad, not too shabby. Meta gems. Fire builds, all the rage at the start of the league, and that meta 2020 fire pen, 30C, money. Here is some Chayula blessings. I've been making some sweet cash of those. Chayula runs, you know, as I said, somewhere between like 130, 140 chaos, maybe like 150 if you're buying it, like the kind of common market rates. Then, you know, that's some pretty tidy profit when you get those Chayula blessings right there. So pretty good stuff. I've also been selling some of the upgraded versions of things from the earlier breaches when I'm running them as well, which I'm running for other secret reasons too. And here is a ring that I bought on day 8, a previous day that you guys will have seen. I bought it for 5 cows and resold it for 10 cows just here. Reason why this sold for 10 cows is because it has a decent amount of life when you combine the strength with the life. Don't forget to do that. And then it's got chaos res, but with another res as well, so it makes it easier to gear. Like myself, I have this same issue. Like I noticed the same thing when gearing my character. I was like, okay, I want chaos res for Chayula, but they need to have another resistance on them, or I'm not going to be capped. So I got this lightning one, and I've got this cold one here as well. So I knew that was useful for me, so I know it's going to be useful for other people as well. So that one sold for 10 chaos. And I've also been selling a lot more maps. Any of the maps that I don't want to run from my Chayula drops, I'm just selling. I've been selling a lot of 3 and 5 chaos maps. I've made probably half an X to an X on that alone. So pretty good stuff right there. And I got a sweet Consuming Dark sale for 15C too. Devoto's Devotion, a pretty popular unique, sold for 13C as well. And that is it for today, guys. A slightly longer episode there, almost 20 minutes, but hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. May all your trades be pleasing social ones. That is it for now. I'm ZiggyD, and thank you very much for watching.